Superman is a superhero movie based on the DC Comics character, written and directed by James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad fame. The movie serves as the first movie in the DC universe, produced by DC Studios, and is the second reboot of the Superman film series. The movie is the first in DCU's Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. We're in Antarctica, where an injured Superman, played by David Corenswet of Twisters fame, is brought to his fortress of solitude by his dog Krypto. While healing, Superman replays a message from his Kryptonian parents, informing him of his heroic mission on Earth. Due to Superman's recent interference with an invasion of a US ally on his neighbouring country, billionaire Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult of X-Men First Class fame, invades the fortress to find anything he can use to further disgrace Superman, where wackiness ensues. The movie was shot at Trilith Studios in Atlanta, Georgia, with location filming around Georgia and Ohio. David Fleming and John Murphy of The Suicide Squad, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 fame composed the score. The movie took inspiration from the comic book All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, among others. The movie premiered at the TCL Chinese Theatre and went on to receive positive reviews from critics, gaining a Rotten Tomatoes rating of 83%, with the critical consensus stating, pulling off the heroic feat of fleshing out a dynamic new world while putting its champion's big beating heart front and centre, this Superman flies high as a man of tomorrow, grounded in the here and now. The movie has made a worldwide box office total of $220 million off of a budget of $225 million. So Tim, what did you think of this year's Superman?
I think James Gunn, as the young kids say today, understood the assignment and delivered what was needed. A family film, something for everyone, makes you smile in parts, and walk away and get on with your day.
Absolutely. It's like, it sounds sort of rude and dismissive, but James Gunn is a company man. Like you said, he understood the assignment and also kind of did what he was told in a way, because obviously coming out of the Man of Steel and what happened with the DCEU and Justice League and all those sorts of tonal issues, they said, right, this isn't what worked. This is what we want. Give us that, especially since you've been so successful in reinvigorizing the Marvel Universe with the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, which at the time tonally shifted the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And, you did it in The Suicide Squad, doing it with Peacemaker. Could you please do it with everything? The DCU, the new Detective Comics universe. So how did you go with your knowledge of the Superman comics watching this movie?
I'm not really a Superman guy. I'm definitely a James Gunn guy, but I'm not a Superman guy. The only Superman books, let's face it, Superman is in the social consciousness of society today. We all know who he is. We all know his story. I'd be surprised if you went to a foreign country and they didn't know the mythos, the basics of Superman. So I know all that. Most of the Superman comic books that I've read and remembered are the more weird stuff. Like there's one issue I love where he fights Dracula. I love the miniseries Blackest Night Superman, where zombie Superman is fighting Superboy and Krypto. It's the stories like that which aren't really Superman stories that I am drawn to. So apart from the basics of having 50 years of Superman movies that we've all seen, I'm not entirely across the character.
And that's why I think this movie might be a shock to people who are used to the cinematic interpretation of Superman, because you have those people who have, known Christopher Reeve or even George Reeves, and then suddenly we get this Superman, which isn't a Superman for our world, it's us going into an ongoing comic line smack bang in the middle of it. So this movie is like a first-time comic book reader picking up an issue going, what's going on? Like, where am I? Where's our first act structure? Where's the introduction to our characters, our world, blah, blah, blah. But this kicks off like Star Wars. This kicks off with text on screen, letting us know what's come before in the last 300 years, 30 years, 3 hours, 3 minutes. Bang, straight into it. And then you're sort of grappling to come to an understanding of what's going on and the relationships and the characters. But they have fun with it. So you assume, for example, that Lois doesn't know that Clark Kent is Superman. And then you find out, oh, hang on, they do because they're dating and all that type of thing. But it's almost like, as an audience member, you're as behind the 8 ball as you are with Superman. Because he's never given the time to get his act together because he's constantly playing catch up. Because Lex Luthor is using his brains over Superman's brawn, even to the point that Supes is never really even given the chance to get to 100% strength capacity. Yeah. And so there's a lot of chatter now on the internet and in my algorithm feeds of old white guys really going to town on this version of Superman, saying he's weak, he's nowhere near Cavill's Superman strength and blah, blah, blah. But if you watch the movie, there's a reason for it, because he doesn't charge all the way up and his adversaries are quite powerful, and that pays off later on as well.
Yeah.
How did you go with the structure of this?
Oh, look, I didn't mind it. I kept up pretty well. I guess it seemed a bit episodic, although that's the nature of comic books, so it's kind of the nature of comic book films. But it also, I thought it delivered in this film specifically because it showed the constant continual lineup of things that Superman has to do. The threats he has to face, the people he has to rescue, it's just non-stop. It's like, okay, finally, I've done this. It's like Mr. Incredible. Can't the world just stay safe for one day? He's got to go on to the next thing. He's got to go on to the next monster. He's got to go on to the next rescue, blah, 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 you know. But I didn't mind it. It didn't feel like it was a jolt to the system that you're like, hang on, weren't we just over here? What's now? I think it worked well.
How do you think our leads went? David Cornenswet as Supes.
I think they were fine. Mm-hmm. I think the issue I had with this film was just that it was fine. I walked out of it at the time thinking, 5 out of 5. Best movie in the history of mankind. And then just a couple of days later, I couldn't remember a lot of it.
Yeah.
It didn't stick with me.
No.
I've said numerous times that I'm a James Gunn guy, so I love his work. But this just didn't stick with me the way that even Creature Commandos did. I didn't think about it afterwards. Creature Commandos has come to my mind a lot and influenced a lot of my writing and stuff that I've done since I saw it. Whereas this, I watched it. Yeah, it was good. It was good. And then it just forgettable. Didn't stick. The actors were good. There was nothing wrong with what they did, but I was hardly blown away.
I can't believe on retrospection, and you're going to probably get really irritated with me, how much I actually do like Man of Steel.
Yeah.
Because I was watching this one thinking, and I was hyper aware and on alert, and after, because I went with the friends, and the plan was to get a drink and dinner afterwards, but afterwards I said, I need to go home. I need to go to my fortress of solitude and rest because I felt exhausted. But Man of Steel, Hans Zimmer, love him or hate him, Zack Snyder, absolute visionary, whether or not he is your taste or not. Yep. Henry Cavill, Superman's dad, Rusty Crowe, his other dad, Mr. America, Kevin Costner, Mum's Diane Lane, Amy Adams, and Perry White, played by Larry Fishburne. They did basically what Christopher Nolan did with Batman Begins, which was inspired by 1978 Superman, where you populate your cast of characters with prime actors, and that's where you spend your money to make it seem epic. And again, like it or loathe it, there was a look, there was a style, there was a design. Everything was staged and framed like a comic book. And the only thing wrong really with the Zack Snyder version was the tonal take, which was, again, at the time, he was a company man. He did what he was told to do, which is give us a situation where Superman visits current society. And it's not going to be pretty. Yeah. I mean, the same thing happened 2,000 years ago and it didn't work out. But now it's not that. It's, okay, don't bring Superman into modern society. Take us out of where we are because things are so bad. Let's go into a complete fantasy land. So it's flipped. But watching this one, no comic book framing, no distinctive style or set design. Everything looks flat. And, not to go too far into it, but say, for example, just the costume design with our Justice Gang. Not very inspired. But again, everything's completely serviceable. Yeah. Everything looks like it's marketable. Everything looks like it could be toyetic.
Yep.
The new logo and the colors and the sound, it's giving you the commercial Superman that you can slap onto a McDonald's. Yeah. And again, that sounds pessimistic, but that was the brief. Yeah. Because it wasn't just giving us a Superman movie, it's giving us a stepping stone to the next 10 years of DC Comics movies. Right. And so even though to us this is like a sort of a forgettable thing, it's not supposed to be any more than it is, which is the brief set us up. And in that way, it does. But I found myself going, if I'm going into a Superman movie, I want to see Superman. I want to see Clark and Lois and really dig into that character. And we get those moments here, but there's a lot of other stuff going on with a lot of different people. Like Jimmy Olsen gets a subplot here. I don't care. And it's actually quite funny what happens, but let's bring us back to the Big Blue.
Yeah. It was almost like, and again, my favorite Batman stories are the ones without Batman.
What?
Yeah. My favorite Batman comics are Nightfall, where Bane breaks the bat. Spoilers, 30-year-old comic now.
No, it's not.
Bane breaks the bat and he's replaced.
By Jean-Paul Valley.
That's right. And so it's really a deep dive into what makes Batman Batman. You can't just put on the helmet and be a good fighter and be Batman. The other Batman story I really like, where he's not even in it, is No Man's Land, where Gotham City was cut off from the rest of America and it was all gang warfare and there was no bat for 3/4 of the story. And so this movie actually felt a bit like that, but with Superman, in that, okay, we came in the very start of the film, he's in the middle of a conflict, and then, spoilers, he's out of action for a lot of the story.
Well, I guess you like to look at the foundational stuff, the building blocks of a hero. Yeah. And so over the since 1989's Batman, which was very much inspired by Frank Miller's take in the late 80s, ever since then we've had a very deconstructive look at the superhero, even more so with obviously Zack Snyder's run. And so we're almost going the opposite way now, where we're building them back up again or having them already set, especially since this Superman's been in operation for 3 years. But nothing's really subtle about it here, where you've got Superman really literally telling Lex Luthor what makes him a hero and what makes him vulnerable.
And that's the thing, is that like we have so many superheroes, whether you're a comic book fan, even just in the movies, we have so many superheroes. You need to know, why do I care about this one? So I can appreciate the deconstruction of the character and understanding why we need this one, as well as this one, as well as this one. But having it spelled out the way it is in this film, it's not very satisfying.
No. It's funny too, isn't it? Because I don't know why it's always so hard to get Superman up on screen. I think it's because 1978 Superman is a sacred cow in a way, where you can't deviate too far away from it. So you can't remake it, can't do anything different. But also trying to reinvent Superman for contemporary ages, like making him hip or cool, or making him daggy because he's got these beliefs of just being a good person. Yeah. Why does it work so well with Captain America? He was great. Those movies were fantastic. The Winter Soldier, like we've spoken about before, was a spy espionage Cold War thing where Captain America at the time wasn't even falling into line with what the American government was doing at the time, because he stood for something that was symbolic, like something that people should aspire to be or just commit themselves to, which I don't think is that far away from Superman trying to hold on to values of doing good for other people. So I don't know why that's such a difficult thing to do these days. And so, you know, you've got Henry Cavill's Superman struggling with that in his Christ-like allegory in his films, to the point that, spoilers, he dies and gets resurrected. Here, David Corenswet says the reason why he chose to have the red trunks on was to look a bit goofy, to look a bit daggy, to make it seem like his Superman shouldn't be scary to other people, to say, hey, I'm a type of person that you can trust and get on with, by almost downplaying his character. I, on reflection, really appreciated Henry Cavill's take, even in the look of him, because that's my 1990s Superman, minus the mullet. Big and bulk and brilliant, and that's almost like the look of an exceptional leader, like a world-class athlete who doesn't need to play small. You know, if anything, either you get behind him and use this person as a template to live up to, or you take it the other way and tall poppy syndrome that person, which makes you completely understand someone like Lex Luthor. And that works. Whereas here, I've never liked the idea of Superman being a loner or awkward or out of place. That's not my Superman. My Superman is a hero.
Because that's Clark Kent.
Should be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Superman is...
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
You're on a bike, you're on a plane, you're living life.
You're larger than life, you're kicking ass. You're the second coming of Christ.
Yeah.
Right?
You're Brad Pitt in F1.
Yeah. And Clark Kent is the awkward, out of place persona.
And that's why I felt a little bit off watching Brandon Routh in Superman Returns.
Yep.
That dour, miserable, awkward movie. Beautiful, stunning. Everyone did a great job. Again, it was the tone. I think it's like Peter Parker. He's anxiety ridden. He's full of grief and he's awkward. Pop on the Spidey suit. Boom. He's having a great time.
Yeah. I wonder if having a forgettable film is worse than having a bad film.
I think it is. I mean, obviously, we're not talking about box office here because this is going very, very well. But there's never really a bad film because you can have a divisive film, which Man of Steel totally was. Some people loved it. Some people hated it. I think that's great because it gets people thinking. Whereas like hey, this is a popcorn movie. Oh, I'll just turn my brain off for a couple of hours and enjoy it. No.
Well, even Superman Returns was a divisive film.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of us were saying he didn't throw one punch in the entire film.
Which is true.
Whereas, I just think that this one might just fade away.
Until the next one. Like I said, this is doing its job. This is the first step to another one. There are so many people out there now, and we're different. We used to have DVD libraries, Tim. We used to have this hard media because we'd watch it again. And we'd watch it again. But now, content. I don't think people are going to be going back to this. They're going to be looking forward to the next one. I mean, we're now getting into an age where there's, I was about to say propaganda, advertising, letting consumers know, hey, you better get used to the point that you're now paying for access of online games. That's where you're paying your money on, and we can take that away from you at any point. Especially if you finish a video game, for example. The notion is you don't play that again, you get the next one. And so I think that's the same with media now as well. This isn't designed to cherish and to hold on to and rewatch. This is content. Yep, did that. Where's the next one? And it's all banked up. We had those graphics back in the day with those media releases that we used to look forward to, giving us the spreadsheet of all the movies that come in the next decade. They don't do that anymore, I think, because of Star Wars lesson, where they announced all these things just to not follow through. But the idea is that James Gunn is mapping out the next 8 to 10 years of DC movies. And so that's it. So Soups has got people engaged for the next thing. I think it's worked. I went to EB Games on the weekend. They were selling soup stuff. And I just happened to say, is this selling? And the guy goes, no, but I'm a massive Superman fan. If I wasn't working here, I'd be buying all this up right now. I said, did you like the new movie? He goes, man, I loved it. He's my boy. Go Soups. And I thought that was fantastic. And so there is an audience out there for Superman, which surprised me because he's been notoriously difficult to get back up on screen. I've got no idea how the comics are going because as soon as the new 52 happened, I was out. I thought you can't again reboot this stuff again. But this guy, David Corenswet, his suit is from the New 52. It's baggy, like a Grant Morrison comic book. Yep. They've rejumbled all these things. Krypto is in there. And so on the one hand, you could go, oh, that's not my Superman movie because you junked it up with all this sort of stuff. And then on the other hand, you can go, well, there's a comic book precedent to everything in here. So it really is whether or not this lines up to your Superman. Looking forward to the next outing. Clayface and Supergirl. And Mr. Terrific is going to get his own.
I'm very interested to see what they do with Clayface because I don't know if you got around to watching Creature Commandos.
One episode.
He turned up in that.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so I think, and because of everyone loving him in that, I think that's why James was like, we can make a horror movie out of this.
Oh.
Apparently it's going to be a bit of a horror movie. So I'm looking forward to that. Look, you know me, man. I'm going to watch them all.
Yeah.
The level of excitement isn't quite there. As I said, I was keen to see this because it was James Gunn, but it didn't really have the James Gunn edge to it. Like there was a little bit of the humor thrown in, but the only piece of James Gunn humor, in quotes, that I can think of is when Green Lantern was making giant green middle fingers sticking up. The rest just seemed, as I said, fine. Like you said, this was the brief, this is what they wanted, make that. It just didn't have that James Gunn character to it for me. And I guess, I know he's also working on Peacemaker Season 2. I quite enjoyed this first season of that. That, to me, is James Gunn superhero stuff, the MA-rated stuff, with the swearing, with the everything an adult male enjoys.
Also dealing with lesser-known characters.
Yeah.
So maybe the pressure's off. Building these things up as opposed to going to a sacred cow like Soups and feeling really comfortable to do what you think you should be doing.
Yeah, no, good point, because that's how he made his career in the whole superhero industry, was with Guardians of the Galaxy, which were a next to unknown Marvel IP at the time. He latched onto that, and the rest, as they say, is history. But you look at, his whole superhero career has been taking these one step from being cancelled as comic books characters and working with them. And I think that's probably his strength, that because he's probably, as you said, he's a company man for sure, but I think coming from the Troma stable of creators, I think he's a bit of an outsider himself.
Yeah.
I couldn't be happier for him that he's now, a main player in the mainstream industry. But I think from those roots, I think those are the sort of the characters that he probably relates to better.
So, Tim, how many unruly dogs out of 5 are you going to give Superman?
After reconsidering, it gets 3 unruly crypto dogs.
Yeah, I was a bit wiped after this. I saw it for a second time, and I think I enjoyed it more on the second time because I think I knew what else I was going to be expecting. I could sort of wrap my head around it a bit more. But yeah, loud, brash, pacing issues. It doesn't let up. And I think I do like my 3-act structure, and I like to focus on our main character. So 2 unruly dogs out of 5 for me.
Yeah, it was just
a lot.
Fine. Well,
a lot of fine stuff.
A lot of fine and not much more.
Getting old. And that's about it from us at the Movie Club. Thank you very much for joining us once again. Make sure you tune in the same time channel next week. But in the meantime, jump on to www.themovieclub.net for all of our past podcasts and written reviews. There you find links to our Facebook page, Twitter, and Spotify account. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us there.
See you next week.